We're now about halfway through our spring planting schedule, which started in mid-February and will end in mid-May. This year we're starting almost all of our cool weather crops directly in the soil instead of in the grow room. Today I'll share what we're planting this weekend, but first let's take a quick look back at what we've planted so far and how everything is coming along. On February 13th I started lettuce and spinach in a cold frame here in the hoop house. I also started kale and collards in plastic jugs and onions in a seed starting tray. Kale, collards, and onions are the only cool weather crops we started outside but didn't sow directly in the soil. These crops were moved out of the hoop house a couple weeks ago, and I only returned them to protect them from freezing temps, snow, or heavy rains. The kale and collards are now in individual pods, and I'll transplant kale, collards, and onions into the garden in the next few weeks. On March 6th, we planted sugar snap peas and radishes in this bed under a low tunnel. Now that seedlings are up and daytime temperatures are consistently above freezing, we open the low tunnel in the morning and close it on nights when temperatures are expected to be near or below freezing. We also planted carrots, beets, parsnips, lettuce, and spinach under this low tunnel on March 6th. These seeds were slower to germinate than the peas and radishes, so we kept the bed covered longer to warm up the soil and encourage germination. Now all of the plants are up, and we open the low tunnel in the morning and return the cover in the evening. On March 12th, we started tomatoes, peppers, eggplants, and basil in the grow room, and we also started a number of cool weather crops directly in the garden. We planted arugula in an unprotected spot, and bok choy, beets, carrots, turnips, and rutabaga in cold frames. As with the low tunnels, we kept the cold frames covered until seedlings emerged. Now we vent or remove the covers every morning and return them in the evening if it's expected to be near or below freezing. And finally, last weekend on March 26th, I planted potatoes under cover in this compost bin. I'll keep the plastic on until the plants emerge, and after that I'll use plastic and row covers to protect the plants from freezing temperatures when needed. And that brings us to today. I originally planned to remove all of the low tunnels, cold frames, and the plastic from the top of the hoop house today. But our forecast calls for colder nighttime temps than we've seen in several weeks, so I've decided to leave everything covered for at least one more week. I had originally planned to transplant kale, collards, broccoli, cauliflower, and onions to the garden this weekend, but decided to hold off until nighttime temperatures are a bit warmer. I also want the plants to get a little bit larger before I transplant them. My hope is that the more mature plants will hold up better to pests and the elements. Even though we're postponing all of these activities, there's still plenty to plant in the garden today. And because our last frost is now less than 4 weeks away, we can plant all of today's cool weather crops in the garden without any protection. Let's start with Swiss chard. Before planting, I brush aside the leaves that covered the bed since last fall and apply a thin layer of vermicompost. I'll return the leaves as mulch when the plants are well established. Swiss chard can be started outside without protection 2 to 4 weeks before the last frost. Our last frost date is now less than 4 weeks away, so we can start planting Swiss chard. I follow the square foot garden spacing of 4 plants per square foot and plant seeds about a ½ inch or 13 millimeters deep. These Ford Hook giant Swiss chard seeds are getting old, so I plant 3 seeds in each hole. If more than 1 seed comes up in each spot, we'll eat the smaller plants as baby greens and let the largest grow to maturity. The next crops I'm planting today I also started weeks ago under protection. By spreading our plantings out over several weeks, we have more of a continuous harvest instead of a large single harvest. Let's plant some lettuce and spinach. Spinach and lettuce can be started 4 to 6 weeks before the last frost. I plant the spinach seeds ½ inch or 13 millimeters deep and follow the square foot gardening spacing of 9 per square foot. My lettuce seeds are old and I'm not sure how well they'll germinate, so I broadcast seeds closer than recommended and cover them with a thin layer of vermicompost. Next I plant carrots, which can be started 3 to 5 weeks before the last frost. The seeds are small and difficult to handle, but I try to plant them about 1/4 inch or 6 millimeters deep and 16 per square foot. Finally, beets can be started 2 to 4 weeks before the last frost. I plant them about 1/2 inch or 13 millimeters deep and 16 per square foot. And that's all the work I'm going to do in the garden today. Next weekend I'll plant our second batch of potatoes, and weather permitting, I'll remove all of the low tunnels, cold frames, and at least begin to start venting the sidewalls of our hoop house. Before closing, here's a quick look at our garden layout after today's planting. It's just the beginning of April, but we're already well on our way to having the garden planted. If all goes well, we'll finish our spring planting in just 6 short weeks. If you'd like to see our entire spring planting schedule and layout for our Zone 5 garden, please see the links in the description below. Well, that's all for now. Thank you very much for watching. And until next time, remember, you can change the world 1 yard at a time.